Welcome to The Explainer, where we're all about breaking down big topics into bite-sized pieces.
From your morning coffee to the smartphone in your pocket. Have you ever stopped to wonder who actually decides the price of, well, everything? It's not just some random number pulled out of thin air. It's economics. And to really get it, we need to start with a really simple but super important distinction. So, to get to the bottom of that whole price thing, we've got to pull apart two big ideas that sound similar but are totally different. First, there's the economy, the system itself. And then there's economics, which is the study of that system.
Okay, check this out. It's kind of like this. The economy, with a capital E, is this huge real-world machine. You've got producers making stuff, consumers like you and me buying it, and money just flowing all around in this big loop. Now, economics, that's the toolkit. It's what lets us pop the hood on that machine and see how all the little gears and pieces, from our own individual choices to massive national trends, actually work together.
Right. So let's put it even more simply. The economy, that's the actual game being played every single day, all around us. And economics? Well, that's the rule book. And maybe the play-by-play commentary explaining why the players are making the moves they're making with the stuff they have to work with.
And here's the cool part. Economists look at this game from two different camera angles, basically. You've got microeconomics, which zooms way in on the individual players like you, me, and that coffee shop down the street. Then you've got macroeconomics, which pulls the camera way, way out to see the whole league, looking at the big picture stuff like GDP, inflation, and unemployment numbers.
All right, so now we know what we're looking at, right? The system and the study of it. So let's ask the next big question. How do different societies actually organize this whole thing? Who's in charge? Who gets to call the shots?
So on one side of the spectrum, you've got what's called a free market economy. Picture a giant, bustling marketplace where it's all about individual buyers and sellers making deals. They decide what's for sale and for how much. It's all driven by this thing called supply and demand, and the government, it pretty much just keeps its hands off.
Then, if you go all the way to the other end, you'll find the command economy. This is totally different. Here, there's a central authority, almost always the government, acting like a master planner. It's deciding everything, what gets made, how much of it, and even what you're going to pay.
But, in reality, most countries aren't at those extreme ends. They're actually somewhere in the middle. It's called a mixed economy. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It mixes the energy and innovation of private business with some government oversight to, regulate important stuff and provide services for everyone.
And this table here, it lays it all out so clearly. You can really see the trade-offs. Just look at one line, price determination. In a free market, it's all supply and demand. Simple. In a command economy, the government just sets the price, period. And in a mixed system, well, it's a bit of both. You can see how that one little difference, who controls the price, changes everything else. Okay, so we've got the big systems down. But inside those systems, how do businesses actually, compete with each other? Let's zoom in a little closer, right into the marketplace, and check out the different flavors of competition.
Yeah, it turns out competition isn't just one simple thing. It's more like a spectrum. On one end, you have a zillion small businesses all fighting for your attention. And on the complete other end, you've got just one single company that rules the entire industry.
So first up, let's talk about perfect competition. The textbook example is always something like farming. Think about it. You have tons and tons of farmers, and they're all selling basically the exact same thing, like wheat. Because of that, no single farmer has the power to set the price for everybody else.
Next, we have something called monopolistic competition. Now, this is where it gets interesting. You still have a lot of businesses competing, but they try to make their products just a little bit different. A great example is restaurants or your local coffee shops. They all sell food and coffee, right? But they compete using branding, a unique vibe, maybe better service, anything to make them stand out from the crowd.
Moving on, we get to an oligopoly. This is where just a few huge companies dominate the whole market. Think about the airline industry, or smartphones, or even video streaming services. There are only a handful of big names, right? And what one of them does, like cutting a price, has a huge direct impact on all the others.
And finally, we get to the end of the line, the monopoly. This is when one single company has all the power, total control. They're selling something that you can't get anywhere else, which gives them massive power over the price. Think about it. Your local water company or electric utility. You don't really have a choice, do you?
And this table just pulls it all together perfectly. Look at the connection between barriers to entry, how hard it is for a new company to start up, and control over price. See that? When it's super easy for new businesses to jump in, like with perfect competition, nobody really controls the price. But when the barriers are crazy high, like with a monopoly, well, that one firm has pretty much all the control. That really shows you the power of competition, or, the lack of it.
Which, of course, brings us all the way back to our very first question. In a market where there's at least some competition, how does a price actually get set? How do we land on that one number that both buyers and sellers can agree on?
Well, the answer is in probably the most fundamental idea in all of economics, that constant dance between supply, what sellers have to offer, and demand, what buyers like us are willing to pay.
Take a look at this. This is a demand curve. And honestly, it just shows a super simple truth about how we all think when we're shopping. Look at these t-shirts. The cheaper they get, the more of them people are going to want to buy. It's just common sense, really. It's human nature.
So, where does the magic happen? It happens right here, at the equilibrium point. This is the sweet spot where the supply curve and the demand curve cross. At this exact price, the amount of stuff people want to buy is a perfect match for the amount of stuff producers want to sell. Everything is in balance.
Because think about it, if the price is too high, you get a surplus, just a bunch of unsold stuff sitting on shelves. And if the price is too low, you get a shortage, empty shelves, and a lot of frustrated customers. But in a market that's allowed to work, these imbalances create this natural pressure that pushes the price right back toward that perfect, stable equilibrium point.
So the next time you go to buy anything, literally anything, just pause for a second. Think about that invisible dance of supply and demand that decided its price tag. Think about what kind of competition is happening in that market. Because now you know the models, and it makes you wonder, which one are you living in?